I think what I want to talk about is, like, specifically is the Verstappen Leclerc kind of
We'll start with that.
relationship.
Yes.
I think we had a lot of, like, very, very interesting battles. It's very easy to kind of overtake, but then you got, like, the DRS, and then it's very interesting with that stuff. I think it makes it a lot harder to overtake now, and it makes it very interesting because you can't just go around the outside or, you know, dive bomb and overtake.
See, but what do you think of that? Because I've also heard the opinion. I listened to a few F1 podcasts that like come out on Monday before we record this, and basically there was a split, right? Some people love the little battling for the DRS line. You know, it's cool. It's trying to be smart.
I think it's dangerous, especially in Saudi.
They didn't mention dangerous, but on top of that, like, there's the other way where you say like it's stupid, like it's dangerous. It's not actually racing. They're stopping before a line to make sure you have DRS so you can pass into the first corner. Like, do you see how that's
I think the whole stopping, I think, is extreme.
Yeah.
But I think before that, where they kept switching positions, so I think that was very interesting. Like exactly like Bahrain.
Yeah.
I think the whole like slowing totally down, that was insane, to be honest.
Yeah.
But the one thing I really wanted to speak about, there is a lot of respect between the two of them. And what I kind of noticed, and I wanted to kind of see your opinion on this, is when I think Leclerc is giving him a lot of respect. But I'd see, like, when you look at their relationship compared to Max and Lewis, I think Max gives him a lot more respect than he ever gave Lewis.
Yeah.
Not in the sense of respect in terms of a person, but rather on the racetrack. And I feel like he knows that if he goes into a corner with Lewis, if he goes into like this corner and he puts his car there, Lewis, even if it's Lewis's corner, Lewis most likely will give up the corner, give Max the position because he doesn't want to crash, and he let Max pass and then get him with strategy or whatever. Whereas with Leclerc, I feel like Max knows that if he goes in for something like that, Leclerc won't happen. Like, he will crash. He will not.
No, fully. Yeah, he doesn't care.
And I feel like
puncture, like all of it.
I feel like now Max is a lot more cautious when he's driving, and Leclerc also has this kind of. They're both kind of ferocious in that sense that Leclerc is a lot more like personality-wise, he's a lot calmer.
Yeah.
But when on the racetrack, he will go for it.
Yeah, true.
And I feel like that's the one thing I kind of missed last year with Lewis and Verstappen is Verstappen went for it. Even when he didn't have the car, he went for it. Lewis did not go for it.
He's patient, but almost a bit too patient.
Too patient, like, you need to have that kind of, like, if you have a gap, you have to go for it, or you're not a racing driver. I feel like that line has been, like,
that line just gets used to defend the most dumbest decisions I've ever seen.
But it is right in a sense that I feel like Lewis did not take those, like, he could have overtaken multiple times and just be like, nah, I'll wait. Fair enough, he overtakes later, but I feel like you lose that kind of sense of excitement watching the race.
Yeah, no, definitely.
And I feel like with this kind of partnership, I feel like obviously if they hit each other, it's gonna go like boom, and it's gonna be way worse, because they've also had that karting stuff, you know, like that Leclerc funny video is like. Something is that I remember.
It's just an incident. Yeah, no, incident gets quoted too much. We'll put a link to that.
That video is so
basically, for those who don't know, Max and Charles actually used to be karting rivals when they were like 11 years old. And this one video went viral a couple years ago of both of them arguing about something. I don't even know what it was.
I think Max pushed him off the racetrack, and then Charles pushed him off afterwards.
Classic Max and Charles. And then, they were speaking in like a little interviews afterwards, so I'll link that somewhere on the YouTube. I'll put it in the YouTube description.
Incident. It's too funny.
I see what you mean about the whole respect thing, but like, first of all, I feel like Max can turn it on very soon. Like, I don't know why he's being different. So here, actually, you know what, we'll keep going. We'll start with, Max then Lewis. Max, first of all, I forgot to mention this in my list of things that made Max Verstappen different in the last race. The safety car restart, absolutely horrendous from him. It was diabolical. He's beside him and he's trying to get in his head. Cool, perfectly fine, yeah. Like, as long as he doesn't go ahead.
Really hate that. But
I hate it too, but as long as he doesn't go in front of him, it annoys me. But like, a fair game. The problem is in Bahrain. First of all, he did this going into the last corner, which was completely stupid because Leclerc just went wide, then had a perfect line into the corner, and then pinched him. So like, basically Max is like right next to the apex of the corner. he completely played himself. Leclerc, instead of just, weaving around the weather, he just drives off. And Max completely, he baited himself by being alongside him. If he went behind him, it would have been fine. And then, I don't know, I feel like he didn't do a similar thing. He didn't finesse himself as badly this time. He was obviously doing the games, but he didn't completely...
But he did... Max is not as clinical, perhaps, as last year. That's probably what he
Yeah,
does.
very true. The thing is,
he got baited a few times in Bahrain.
he's getting so much credit now. People are saying, oh, look at him, that's our world champion, he's so smart, look at him, outclassed. Okay, cool, credit to him, he won the race. But it's taken him 2 races to realise that if you go into the last corner second, you get DRS and pass into turn 1. 2 races. And we're talking about some generational talent.
Perhaps overconfidence is the thing.
He has always been that guy to go for the overtake at the first opportunity. Even Abu Dhabi, last lap, instead of, Lewis went really wide trying to get a good line into the exit, he just dived down the inside first opportunity. It's classic Max there. But, you'd think at some point it would click in his head. And clearly it did this time.
I think last year, he did learn to kind of, I think after Bahrain, he learned to kind of relax a bit because he lost that race because he didn't pick the right moment to overtake Lewis. And he went outside, had to give the position back and everything. I think this year I don't know, he's now world champion. He's kind of, I don't know, enjoying it.
He's got the golden boots, the
Exactly.
golden helmet.
Perhaps that pushed him off his game a bit, I don't know. That would be interesting to see. Maybe it's just getting in the rhythm of everything. Maybe he's not used to the cars. Everything's so different and stuff. But then you can say the same about Lewis. Lewis with Alonso, it took him in Hungary, it took him so many laps to overtake.
Oh yeah.
And he was doing the exact same thing into every lap. And Alonso said after the race, he's like, he overtook me when he changed what he was doing. If he'd done that from the second lap, he would have won the race. Yeah. But he didn't change his tactics. And so it can take some time for them to perhaps adapt your driving style because he's used to just doing this overtaking and it's done. Now it's not necessarily the case.
Yeah, you don't just overtake and drive into the sunset.
Yeah, so it is interesting to see how he's going to have to kind of adapt his driving style in that sense. And I'm very interested to see his relationship with Charles as the season goes on. And perhaps I think Sainz and Perez will play a very, very important role this year in terms of who wins the championship.
But do you say that as the way you've worded that makes it sound like they're both going to be second hand and they're going to both be doing, not underhand tactics, but they're going to, pit early to ruin Max's race or something.
I don't think they'll start doing that now. I think with Red Bull it's fairly obvious that will happen. With Ferrari, I don't think it's necessarily the case. I think Sainz he's performed well, and he's performed very, very well. You have to say, 2 podiums, 2 races, great. P2, P3, very, very good. I think he's missing something with the car. Perhaps it's because it's a very different racetrack, but Leclerc is on it, and I think perhaps the car is suited. I don't know. Is it suited to him more? Is it because he got beaten last year by Carlos? Is that why he has that extra fire? Is able to extract a bit more from the car?
Carlos has said he knows what it is, and he knows what changes to make on the car or what changes to make to his driving style to work on it.
So I think Carlos is not someone compared. I remember one of the engineers from Mercedes a few years back, short guy, very little hair. You know what I'm talking about?
Paddy Lowe. Who am I thinking?
I think so. I don't know. Short, very little hair.
That's that's every F1 engineer I've ever seen.
No, he's one of the high Mercedes ones. He was there from I think it's Paddy. It's Paddy.
Let me get a picture.
So anyways, what he was speaking, I think it was him, he was speaking about, someone asked him about the difference between, that's him. Someone was asking him about the difference in Nico and Lewis.
Yeah.
And I really found what he said to be very interesting. He's if you put Nico in the car, if you put Lewis in the car, and he goes out on track, he only needs a few laps and then he's on it and he knows what he has to do and he'll get the car there. Whereas with Nico is a bit different. Nico is kind of more systematic in his approach. He's not gonna jump to this is what it is. He's more give him 1,000 laps and every lap is gonna improve until he gets there.
Yeah.
So I think that's kind of what the difference between the two. I see that in Carlos, and like Carlos, he took the whole
It makes
season,
sense.
but he adapted very quickly, and then he actually beat him at the end. And it's obviously with the season being 23 races now, getting a P2 and a P3 when your teammate who's leading, like he's second in the championship, isn't he? And,
Yeah, I'm pretty sure he is.
He's second in the championship. He's in a very good position, and he's not very far off his teammate. All he has to do is stay with him, and keep getting these P2s and P3s until he starts winning. Do you get what I mean?
True, but here's the thing, yeah. He is second in the championship.
It's 12 points.
But here's my question, right? I've just kind of come up with this now. I'm just thinking, if he doesn't want to play that second driver role, and we've pretty much unanimously everyone agrees that he's not quite got the raw talent of Charles Leclerc, is he going to have to resort to some sort of mind games? Because they seem to get along very well at the moment. But will Carlos have to, like the same way you hear stories of Lewis and Nico doing things to get in each other's heads, will Carlos have to start initiating that to try and throw off Charles?
I don't think, I think every team he's been to, he's won pretty comfortably against his teammate. Like, I think he lost like once or something.
He
But
would have
he's-
lost to Max,
Yeah.
but that's
But I think
fair.
everyone else, it was his first year in F1 as well, so.
Max was 17 though, which
Yeah.
is a bit.
But it's Max. But I think
guess.
after that, that's what I'm saying about talent versus Carlos's. He took a few years to get onto it, and then he's that consistent type you don't hear about, but he keeps banging out the results. And this is what's important, is to keep getting these P2s and P3s, and no one's really realizing what you do, but you're adding your points up, you're stacking the points up, and then the wins will come. And then I think once he understands how the car is working and stuff, then I think it'd be a very interesting debate, because I don't think Max, it'd be kind of more a Ferrari thing up front.
Right.
I think Max will be very close, and if something happens, Max will pounce and kind of take advantage. But it'd be very interesting to see, like, you can't really say who's an advantage until maybe mid-season,
Yeah.
and then you
yeah.
can kind of say, but even if it's mid-season and you got 12 points between them,
True. It's looking race by race as well. It's
Yeah.
looking like certain cars will be better at certain tracks. Because everything seems very sensitive at the moment. The cars seem very track dependent. The tyres seem to have a very specific window you need to get them in.
especially with the new heating rules for those.
Exactly, yeah. It's a lot of weird stuff. Like certain people were saying the old sets were better than the new sets for like some cars. I think it was, I actually heard, what was it? It might have been Aston Martin. I don't know which team, but they went out. Oh my god. They went out in practice and they scrubbed all of their sets of tyres. So they just did like a couple laps on each of them just to make them slightly used, because the driver said they preferred it that way. So it's interesting to see them resort to that kind of stuff, and the tyres still play a huge role in F1, but I don't know, it's looking like
I think it's
they're
also
not what
because the
everyone
teams
expected.
don't really know aerodynamically what's really happening until
That's
you're on
true.
the racetrack. Obviously, with different setups going to races where it's not necessarily clear what you're doing, because like Jensen Button was talking about how he ran a high downforce rear wing in Monza of all the places a few years back, and he was defending from Alonso, I think, and I think he won the race. He ended up winning the race, but it's interesting because you're vulnerable across the straight,
Yeah,
but you get the benefit into every single corner because you can brake later.
yeah.
And so Ferrari went with a similar thing. It was just the DRS was perhaps too powerful, and like
Yeah.
the strategy was not like they could. I think they could have done a bit better with the strategy. But it's interesting seeing these small things of, it's not just the car, it's also teams are going different ways with setup, with, I think I was very concerned with them tightening the rules that become kind of like IndyCar spec series essentially.
Yeah.
But the cars are so different, and it's very interesting to see, like, hopefully the teams that are kind of at the back now start to understand what's the issue and start to pick up the pace, because then it would be the case where every race you don't know who's going to be out in Q1, who's going to out in Q2, and it's kind of like this fierce thing. Obviously with Mercedes in the mix as well, the only people who are really safe are top four, so it makes
Yeah.
it a very interesting kind of battle.
Well, speaking of Ferrari as well, just quickly, a lot of people gave them credit for the bluff on Perez, on Red Bull, being like, okay, let's go, come in, and then they just didn't. I really don't buy that. They sort of did bluff them, but they got so lucky with the Latifi crash, which was
Do you think
perfect timing for them. Honestly,
is it just luck or did they order him? Crash into the wall.
here's my tweet of the week here. Where is it? Hold on. You ready?
Yes.
There we go. Oh, I have to zoom in.
Latifi is an FIA industry plant. They've hired him for entertainment purposes.
There you go. Niran, their friend he's part of like Team Quadrant.
Oh yeah, I know him.
Yeah, he's an FIA industry plant. They've definitely hired him. So that's 2 races now. Whoops, it's not going to go right.
Yeah, it's Perez. You have to zoom out. Perez and Lewis. Maybe Max is next.
In terms of races he's ruined because he crashed out in Abu Dhabi. Did he crash out in Bahrain? I actually don't know. I don't think he did. He finished the race. I just checked earlier. But then he qualified. He crashed in qualifying. I swear.
I think so.
I'm pretty sure he crashed in qualifying.
He crashed, but he finished. I think.
Something like that, and then he crashed in the race as well. So that's Latifi bidding it in the wall a lot. Not
He's
great
a bit
stuff.
weird this year. Like I thought he'd pick it up and be good. Williams are surprisingly very bad this year.
Yeah, they're one of only 2 teams that haven't got points. The other one being Aston Martin.
Surprising. That's a very, very, very surprising fact. Especially this early on. It shows how kind of competitive everyone is.
People were expecting them to be the kind of Haas, like where Haas are now, kind of thing, but yeah, it's clearly not worked out for them.
Williams.
Yeah, Williams.
I thought they'd be that good.
I thought they would be as well, to be honest.
Yeah. But then with Yachts Capital there and stuff, I think they'll probably pick up. But it'll be interesting who falls back because someone has to go to the back of the grid. Everyone's like, I think this person would be good, this person would be good, but someone had to drop to the back of the grid.
I thought it would be Alpine, clearly not. It's Aston.
Yeah.
Oh,
but anyways, other than them two, I think the next thing we have to talk about is the Alpine battle. Or before we touch on that, we can touch on reliability issues with the engines this far this season. In the first race, we had 2 DNFs. Three DNFs from an engine failure. For Red Bull, it was Red Bull powertrains, and then we had 1 Mercedes this time, and 1 Alpine this time. So it is very interesting to see like these kind of inconsistencies or the failures with the engines and stuff.
Yeah, because it just seemed like they all retired at the same time. It was so
exactly,
weird.
isn't
People
it?
were comparing it to
Bottas retired as well. I'm not sure if he retired. I think it's an engine thing as well.
Yeah, so Bottas retired, then
so that's
Alonso
Ferrari
retired.
as well.
It was mad, yeah. It all just and the worst part, yeah, like I said, it all happened around the same time, which was just so strange.
That's someone from every like engine manufacturer has had someone who's retired.
Yeah, 13 people finished. So Latifi crashed, obviously. Ricardo, that's his Mercedes engine gone. Alonso was Alpine. Bottas gone as well, and then Albon crashed into Stroll. Yeah. Yeah. Who would you actually, interestingly, I know it's not really a huge point, but Albon, like this is, I really don't get it. So Albon dives down the inside of Stroll. Stroll turns in on him. Albon got the penalty. In my head, it doesn't make sense. Like, realistically, if Stroll had the spatial awareness in the car of someone like Lewis or Fernando, or Kimi back in the day, someone like that, they would have seen him coming and moved out of the way. Either he didn't see him coming, and he doesn't have incredible racing IQ, or he saw him coming, turned in on purpose, and then said, why is he there? He shouldn't be there. Why is he dive bombing me? And the FIA said, yeah, he shouldn't do that, penalty. Personally, I think that's his fault. Like,
yeah, Lance is at fault for everything, bro. I agree. Lewis finished P10. That's surprising.
Yeah,
forgot about
so Lewis, he got very lucky with the safety car initially, and he gained a lot of positions there. Him and Kevin were having a similar thing. There's the virtual safety car, interestingly. So actually, when you mentioned this before about him, I was going to say this. Yeah. When he was not being proactive or something about all of this, the virtual safety car comes out and he's in the final sector, and he gets told to box. I don't think he heard it. Then he goes around the final.
But he couldn't have boxed anyways because Ricardo was basically blocking the entrance.
The pit lane was actually open at the time. So Kevin actually.
I know because after I heard his radio call when he was going into turn 1, and he was like too
That's
late.
the one they showed. So that's the one they showed. So initially he got told to box as he was going through the final few corners. I don't think he heard it. He never responded. I don't know. I listened to the radios, and then he goes round, and you could argue as if he was being proactive and he saw there were no signs about the pit lane being closed. He obviously saw Ricciardo's car being parked there, but if the signs don't say that the pit lane's closed, he could have come in and just pitted anyway, knowing his team would be out. He didn't, maybe because he's got flashbacks to Monza in 2020, I think it was, when he pitted, but the pit lane was closed, and then he got like a stop and go where he got some sort of penalty for it, and that's what gifted Gasly the win at the time, I think it was. He didn't pit, the team then tell him to box as he's gone past the line, and then he said it's too late, but like, he could have just come in anyway, to be honest. Like, I'm not sure why. And then his race was kind of screwed from that point.
Yeah, from that point on, he was gone. And Kevin Magnussen was... It's interesting because Kevin Magnussen actually stopped. So I'm not sure why he was...
Kevin stopped after him. I didn't hear his radios, but he just went in.
I was a bit confused with that. He was a bit slow.
And then after that lap, they closed the pit lane, so no one could pit until all of it had been cleared. So, yeah.
I was going to mention something else, but I forgot. Max gained like 4 points. Max lost, under the VSC, because the deltas are a bit different from what I understand. Max lost 4.4 seconds to Leclerc.
See, I wanted to ask you about this because all the tweets I saw when I was scrolling through it,
the opposite.
I heard. In my head, I was kind of zoned out at this point. I kind of not really fell asleep, but just kind of.
I am falling asleep.
So like,
I'm bored. I just haven't slept all day.
This guy, master students. Basically, I was so I see this, the VSC's ending, and then suddenly, I look away from my screen, I look back, and Max is right behind Charles, and I was so confused because I assumed there was quite a good gap between them beforehand. So I checked Twitter and I just searched like Max gaining under VSC. I'm seeing, how did Max gain 4 seconds? How did Max gain 2 seconds?
He was 1.5 behind Leclerc, and then he lost 4. He lost actually. He didn't gain. He lost. He was at 1.5, and then by the end of the VSC, he was like 4.4 behind, something like that.
How did he gain that?
He lost
back?
it.
But how did he gain it back afterwards?
I don't know. he's like 10 kilometers quicker on the straight.
Yeah, so the Red Bull is surprisingly quick on the straights, which is...
So that is something surprising.